Something is happening around Keelon Russell, and the most interesting part is that nobody at Alabama has officially announced it yet. Over the last several weeks, something has started to change. Not the depth chart, not an official decision, not a public declaration from the coaching staff. What changed was the conversation, and when the conversation starts changing before the announcements arrive, that's usually when people should start paying attention, because more players are talking, more analysts are talking, more observers are talking, and somehow many of them seem to be arriving at the exact same conclusion. But here's the twist. The conclusion itself may not be the biggest story. The real story is why so many people are suddenly seeing the same thing at the same time. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why this could be one of the most important developments surrounding Alabama football right now. Let's start with the first clue. The clue that made people stop and look a little closer. When Keelon Russell arrived at Alabama, expectations were already sky high. That wasn't surprising. He entered college football as one of the most highly regarded quarterback prospects in the nation. Elite talent, elite production, elite reputation, but Alabama signs elite players every single year. The challenge isn't arriving with hype. The challenge is separating yourself after you arrive, and that's where the story begins. During spring football, observers started noticing flashes, not necessarily because of volume, not because anyone declared him the future starter, but because certain plays stood out. The kind of plays that make people pause, the kind of plays that get discussed after practice ends, the kind of plays that keep showing up in conversations days later. And that's exactly what happened after A-Day. People weren't simply talking about the event, they were talking about Keelon Russell. But here's where things get interesting. That alone wasn't enough to create this growing narrative. The second clue came from inside the building, and historically, that's where some of the most important signals originate, because coaches are careful, programs are careful, official statements are careful. Sometimes players accidentally reveal what everyone is already noticing. Recently, Alabama defensive back Bray Hubbard publicly discussed Russell. At first glance, it looked like normal teammate praise, the kind of thing athletes say all the time. But when people listened closely, they noticed something different. The comments weren't generic. The focus kept returning to specific traits: arm talent, confidence, playmaking ability, the capacity to make difficult throws. And suddenly, another question appeared. Why do these observations keep sounding so similar? Because when different people begin describing the same strengths independently, a pattern starts to emerge. And patterns matter, especially inside major football programs. Now let's move to the third clue. This is the clue that may explain why the conversation keeps growing. Outside observers have increasingly started discussing Russell's long-term potential. Not next week, not next month, not even necessarily this season. The discussion has shifted toward trajectory, and trajectory is where things become fascinating, because college football history is filled with examples of players whose biggest breakthrough was visible long before it became official. First, teammates notice, then analysts notice, then fans notice, then the rest of the country catches up. The timeline is almost always different, but the pattern is often the same. And right now, some people believe they are watching the early stages of that process. Notice something important. Nobody is claiming the quarterback competition is over. Nobody inside Alabama has made that announcement. That would be inaccurate. But that's not what makes this story compelling. The compelling part is that despite the absence of an official declaration, the conversation keeps moving in one direction. And every week, another piece gets added to the puzzle. Another reaction, another observation, another discussion, another analyst, another teammate, another reminder that something appears to be developing. Which brings us to the detail that might matter most. the detail hidden underneath all the headlines. Most people think this story is about throws, or practices, or rankings, but it may actually be about perception, because perception often changes before reality becomes obvious. Think about it. Why are so many conversations returning to the same player? Why are so many discussions circling back to the same name? Why are analysts continuing to mention Russell when discussing Alabama's future? And why does it feel like the volume surrounding him keeps increasing? The answer may be surprisingly simple. People are not just evaluating what he is today. They are evaluating what he could become. And those are two completely different conversations. Anyone can analyze a current depth chart. Far fewer people try to identify the next major development before it becomes obvious. That's what makes this situation fascinating. The story isn't that everyone suddenly believes the same thing. The story is that more and more people seem to be noticing the same indicators. And when independent observations begin pointing in the same direction, people naturally become curious. That's where we are today. Not at the end of the story. Not even close. In many ways, this may be the beginning. Because the biggest chapters of quarterback stories are rarely written during spring football. They're written later, when opportunities arrive, when pressure increases, when expectations rise, and when talent meets preparation. So maybe the most important question isn't whether Keelon Russell is generating attention. Clearly he is. Maybe the real question is whether we're witnessing the early stages of something much bigger, a future breakthrough that insiders are starting to recognize before everyone else. Or perhaps there is another twist waiting around the corner. Either way, one thing is becoming difficult to ignore. The conversation around Keelon Russell is growing, and it keeps growing for the same reason. People keep noticing the same things, the same flashes, the same traits, the same potential, the same possibility. And whether that possibility eventually becomes reality is the question that will keep Alabama fans watching closely. Now it's your turn. What do you think about everything happening around Keelon Russell right now? Do you believe insiders are starting to see the future of Alabama football? Or do you think the quarterback competition remains completely wide open? Leave your opinion in the comments below. And if you enjoy Alabama football coverage built around the stories, signals, and developments that matter most, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and join us for the next chapter. Because if the current trend continues, this story is only getting started.